because their credit records or credit profiles are impaired. However, SA Home Loans will take us through these processes as to if one is in such a situation, how do they come out of that situation? Then they will be able to advise and give you education and advice as to how you can rebuild your credit profile. These are some of the houses that through the GEHS and the partnership that we have as SA Home Loans, government employees can be able to realize their goals, such as building a house that is similar to the one that's in this picture, or to buy one that is like this. I believe if you have something like this as a government employee, you have something to call home, and then you are able to be effective even at work, to be able to produce and perform your duties, because you don't have to worry about the infrastructure and where your family is at when you are at work. In terms of the establishment of the scheme, we were established in terms of the PSCBC, Public Service Coordinating Bargaining Council Resolution 7 of 2015. This is where an agreement was reached between the employer and labor to establish the GEHS. So we exist through this Resolution 7 of 2015. We also have the Determination and Directive on Housing Allowance for Public Servants. This determination and directive has all the rules and regulations on who qualifies for housing allowance, and as well as the effective dates as to when does an employee qualify to receive the housing allowance. We also have the delinking circular. In terms of the delinking circular, previously, if you were married to a government employee, only one spouse would qualify for housing allowance. However, through this delinking circular, both spouses now qualify for housing allowance. However, it is not automatic. The other spouse who was not receiving the housing allowance has to apply, or had to apply, for them to be delinked and start receiving the housing allowance. We also have the withdrawal circular. The withdrawal circular has all the withdrawal conditions in which these savings can be withdrawn. We have the personal notice 337. I won't talk much into this one because it's mainly HR focused. Then we also have the nomination of beneficiary form for housing. It is very important that every government employee who's a tenant, employees who are renting and do not own houses, and they are saving with the scheme, complete the nomination of beneficiary form for housing. This is a separate nomination form from the GEPF one. This one is specifically for housing. Employees who are tenants must complete the form. Should it happen that the employee passes on while they're still in service and they have savings, then the department knows who were nominated for these savings, and then the department is able to pay those savings to the nominated beneficiaries. In the absence of this beneficiary form, the Department of Education will have to pay the monies, or the savings rather, to the estate of the deceased employee. As the GEHS, we have several MOUs, Memorandum of Understanding, with SA Home Loans, where they offer products offering for government employees. They have specific products that are designed for government employees. We also have one with National Treasury on the individual linked savings facility. Now, coming to the programs of the scheme, the programs that we have as the GEHS, we have 5 programs. And like I've said before, our goal and objective is to increase home ownership among government employees. Program 1 focuses on housing allowance. So this is where we have allowance administration for those who are homeowners, as well as the savings facility for everyone who is a tenant. Program 2 is where we do empowerment of employees at large, as well as HR practitioners. Part of this webinar or workshop falls under Program 2, where we make sure that we have these kinds of workshops to make sure that we capacitate employees, and HR, we give them education, we give them advice on how the GEHS works, as well as other benefits that are available for government employees. We also do customer care, enrollment, and profiling, where the Western Cape has already alluded to the fact that they often send out letters to employees so that they can enroll. Program 3 focuses on affordable housing finance. This is where we have SA Home Loans on board. They are offering the normal mortgage loans as well as a product for government employees who want to build as opposed to buying. Tsepo from SA Home Loans will explain more and elaborate on how do employees apply for that product and the qualifying criteria. We also have First Home Finance, which is a subsidy from the National Department of Human Settlements. It's also administered by NHFC, National Housing Finance Corporation. It's a subsidy for first-time home buyers, people who have never owned a house before, and these individuals are regarded as the gap market. They must be earning between 3,501 rand and 22,000. This is salary before deduction. So the gross salary must not exceed 22,000 for you to qualify for the subsidy. If you are married, your household income should not exceed 22,000. Then you can use the product, the subsidy, to build a house, to buy a house. However, very important is that this is a subsidy, it's a grant. You don't pay it back. It's for everyone who's a first-time home buyer, not only limited to government employees, it's for all South Africans or all South African residents with a valid residence permit. We also have payroll deduction. Payroll deduction is a benefit whereby you take a product with SA Home Loans, and we say SA Home Loans because they are the only partner that we have who are offering home finance or housing finance to government employees. So if you take a product with them and then you pay through salary stop order, you get a 1% further deduction on your interest rate. Suppose when you applied for a bond, your initial interest rate was 10%. Should you decide to pay through salary stop order and not a debit order, then it means your interest rate will drop to 9% for the remaining term of your bond. Program 4 is housing stock supply, as well as the rental of state or official housing. We do have a database on affordable housing stock. So if you want a list of those, then we can be able to send you. And this is where some departments like health, correctional services, SAPS, defense, sometimes even education, you find that government employees are occupying state houses. Important to note is that everyone who's staying in a state house, should their employment in the public service be terminated, either through death, retirement, or dismissal, they need to vacate the state houses. So we often urge and advise government employees that those who are staying in official houses and those who are renting, they must rent with the ultimate goal of becoming a homeowner, either through buying or through building. Then program 5 is stakeholder management, where we engage with different stakeholders, which include but are not limited to the labor, public, as well as other stakeholders, to make sure that the benefits of the scheme caters for the needs of government employees. Program 1 to program 5 is available for all government employees from salary level 1 to salary level 10. However, middle managers and senior managers only qualify from program 2, which means that they can be rehabilitated if they're overly indebted, and they can also get home finance through SA Home Loans, provided that they may qualify. However, they do not receive a separate housing allowance because they structure their salary. In terms of enrollment, the PSCBC Resolution 7 of 2015 states that it is mandatory for all government employees to enroll with the scheme to access any and all services of the scheme. Employees who are enrolled with us are profiled for the purpose of accurate advice and housing access support services. So if you are enrolled with the scheme and you are heavily indebted, you are able to call our enrollment call center. Then they will be able to give you advice, educate you, and put you on the rehabilitation program whereby they constantly give you education and advice on how you can start rebuilding your credit profile. There are two ways of enrollment. Employees can enroll online by visiting our website, or they can call that number on 0861 123434. Both ways of enrollment, they take plus or minus 10 minutes. And then once an employee has enrolled, the employee will receive their enrollment certificate. And then we have two processes when it comes to housing allowance. We have an application form for housing allowance, which is for all employees who qualify. These are employees who are between salary level 1 to 10, or employees who are not in management positions, if I can put it in that way. Then we have the enrollment. Enrollment is for all employees, regardless of your position, whether you are in a management position or not. Enrollment is for everyone. However, application for housing allowance is for employees who are appointed on a permanent basis, or employees who are on contract and they are receiving their salary plus benefits. These are the employees when they're appointed on a contract basis, they are receiving their salary plus benefits, meaning that they're contributing to GPF, they're subsidized for medical aid, they also qualify for housing allowance. However, those who are appointed on contract and they take the 37%, they will forfeit the housing benefit, pension contribution, as well as the subsidized medical aid. Then everyone, especially teachers, must be enrolled, as well as complete an application form so that they can start receiving the housing allowance, because the housing allowance is not received automatically. An employee must complete an application form and submit the relevant documents to HR. For their metros. In terms of the housing allowance and the structure of the housing allowance, effective from the 1st of July 2015, we have two types of employees. We have employees whom we regard as homeowners, and then we have those that we regard as tenants. Homeowners is everyone who has proof of ownership, and you can co-own a house with anyone, can co-own a house with your friend, siblings, family, or whoever, as long as your name appears on the proof of home ownership as an employee and you are staying in that house, then you qualify as a homeowner. In terms of the documents that are required for you to prove ownership, the first document is a registered title deed in the employee's name. For those who are still paying for their houses, they must submit a bond statement. Those who are staying in rural areas, they must submit a letter from the chief or the tribal authority, and this letter is called permission to occupy. Those who are in areas where there are no title deeds and there are no tribal authorities must submit a letter from the municipality indicating ownership of the house. Letters from councillors are not acceptable. The letter from the municipality should indicate ownership, and it should be signed by the municipal administrator, dedicated person to sign off such letters. Then in terms of the process, the employee will complete the application form for housing allowance for homeowners. The employee will attach the enrollment certificate, as well as the proof of ownership and the affidavit of house occupancy. In terms of house occupancy, the determination on housing states that the employee must be staying in the house. In the event where an educator is working in the Eastern Cape, in the Western Cape, but they have a house in the Eastern Cape or KZN, it's evident that the employee is not staying in the house. The people who must stay in the house is the employee's spouse or dependent child or children. In the event that I'm not staying there as the employee and my spouse or dependent child or children are not staying there, it means I won't qualify to receive housing allowance as a homeowner. However, it does not mean that you do not receive any housing allowance. What it means is that you will receive housing allowance as a tenant until such a time that you stay or occupy that house in line with what the policy says. Employees who are married and they are married in terms of property, their names do not need to appear on the proof of ownership, this being the PTO, title deed, bond statement, or a letter from the municipality. By virtue of that marriage, it's a joint estate, and then they qualify. What they need to attach is the marriage certificate as well as the proof of ownership that is in their spouse's name. And then they will qualify and also write an affidavit indicating how they are married. That part is for homeowners. Currently, homeowners are receiving a housing allowance of 1,784. These housing allowances are adjusted annually. In July, in terms of the consumer price index of the presiding financial year. Part 2 focuses on tenants. Every employee who is a tenant, these are employees who do not own houses, must have a valid lease agreement or rental agreement. And the policy states that you can rent from anyone except your spouse, meaning that you can rent from family, you can rent from friends or any other person as long as they are not your spouse. We do have a list of examples of lease agreements for those who are staying with family and friends. And you can also find such templates you can find at P&A, and then you can be able to tailor one that fits your situation. When it comes to tenants, we have two types of tenants. We have those who were appointed before 2015. These employees were already recipients of the housing subsidy of 900 before the scheme was introduced. When the scheme was introduced in 2015, they were not stripped away from that 900. So they continued to receive the 900, but the remaining balance of 884 is diverted and saved for them in the savings facility. All employees who are appointed after 2015 and they do not own houses, upon submitting the application, they will have the full amount going to the savings facility. So the entire amount will appear on their earnings, it will go out on their deductions. I can't stress this more than enough. Housing allowance is not an automated process. An employee must submit an application form and attach the necessary documents for them to start receiving the housing allowance. And to know whether you are receiving the housing allowance or not, it must appear on your payslip on a monthly basis. Those who are tenants, when the lease agreement expires, you need to renew your lease agreement. Failure to renew your lease agreement and submit it to HR, your rental allowance will stop until such a time that you renew and submit the new lease agreement. These are the features of the individual linked savings facility where all employees who are tenants are saving. It is administered by our office as DPSA, GEHS, and the National Treasury is the funds manager. These savings and market related interest, and they are not taxed every month when an employee is saving. They will only be taxed when a withdrawal is made. Currently, employees can see balances reflecting on their payslips. On the bottom left of your payslip, there should be an estimated balance. And this estimated balance is updated on a quarterly basis, meaning that at the end of March, June, December, September, and December, this is when these figures are updated. When it comes to the withdrawal conditions, these are the only conditions on which the savings can be withdrawn. So if you are a tenant and you are saving with the scheme, these are the only conditions that you can claim the savings. You can claim the savings when you become a homeowner, and you can become a homeowner in so many ways. Those who inherit a house, a will is not a proof of ownership, and it does not, it's not acceptable for the purpose of housing allowance. What do you do when you've inherited a house? You go through the process of changing the ownership of that house into your name. Once that process is complete and you now have proof of ownership, you may go ahead and withdraw your savings. Those who are married in terms of property qualify as well, meaning that if today I'm a tenant, tomorrow I marry someone who has a house, then I can claim my savings. All other marriages, your name must appear on the proof of ownership. I already talked about delinking. Employees who require savings as a deposit are also able to claim their savings. What do they need to submit? They submit a letter from the conveyancers or transferring attorneys confirming the purchase of the house. Employees who go on retirement or they're medically boarded before they become a homeowner and they were saving with the scheme are also eligible to claim their savings. In the event of death, if an employee has been saving and the employee passes away, the nominated beneficiary can claim the savings. In the absence of the nomination of beneficiary form for housing, the savings must be paid to the estate of the deceased employee. Employees who are on and their contract expires. These are employees who choose the benefits, meaning that they are receiving housing, they are being subsidized for medical aid as well as pension. When their contract expires and it's not renewed, then they can be able to claim the savings. There's a background noise. I'm not sure. I'm not able to see who it is. Can you please mute your mic? Thank you very much. In terms of the withdrawal conditions, in terms of the withdrawal process, the employee must be enrolled with GHS. The first question on the withdrawal application form, the question says, is the employee enrolled? Are you enrolled with the scheme? Then you must tick yes, and it will then ask, is the enrollment certificate attached? Yes, enrollment is mandatory. There is no withdrawal that can be done without the enrollment certificate. The employee will get an application form from HR and submit the application form back to HR. Then HR will process the withdrawal. Payment of the savings takes 2 months. Maximum payment is 2 months for the savings. Anything more than 2 months, it means there's something wrong. And I believe the employee will be able to communicate with HR, the WCED, and then they will be able to provide feedback if ever there's any challenges. There are conditions on which these savings can be forfeited. If an employee resigns, the savings are forfeited. If an employee resigns and the employee is reappointed, the employee will save. When the employee claims the savings, the employee will only be entitled to the savings after reappointment. The ones before resignation will be forfeited. If an employee is dismissed, the savings are also forfeited. When an employee goes on retirement or they pass on, they're medically boarded or their contract expires and they were saving with GHS and they did not enroll, they are saving, the savings will also be forfeited. That's why it's very important for everyone who's a tenant to be enrolled with the scheme so that to avoid forfeiting those savings. These are just the responsibilities of HR. I won't go into them because this presentation is for educators at large. So I don't think there's a need for me to actually highlight these responsibilities because I believe HR is aware of their responsibilities. Then in terms of the questions we often receive, or these are the most common questions that we normally receive from employees. You would find employees confusing application with enrollment. Application for housing allowance is for those who are qualifying in terms of the qualifying criteria, must be employed between 6 months or longer if they're on contract and taking their salary plus benefits, or on a permanent basis. Then enrollment is for all government employees, regardless of their positions. And then employees will say they do not have savings because they did not apply. That is very much true. The housing allowance is not an automated process. If you are appointed and you do not apply for housing allowance, you won't receive it. And by the time you become a homeowner 3 years later or however long, you cannot be able to claim because you would have not saved anything. Employees who transfer from one department to another, the new department is mainly responsible for reinstating the housing allowance if it fell away. I already mentioned resignation in the previous slide, employees who resign cannot claim their savings because they forfeit them, mainly because this is an employer benefit. So employees are subsidized for housing. Employees are not contributing from their basic salary for housing. However, additional to their salary, the employer is subsidizing you for housing allowance. The Western Cape has already alluded in the introductions that employees, when they have inquiries, they need to contact the WCT call center, and then they will be assisted. And that is actually the best way to receive the response within the turnaround time. If an employee wants to buy a stand and build, they are allowed to claim the savings in line with the policy. They are given 12 months to build and complete the structure as well as occupy the house. And then employees who have a shake or those kind of structures or establishment, provided that it's in a formal settlement and then the employee can prove ownership, then the employee qualifies for housing allowance as a homeowner. Provided that they have the legal documents to prove ownership, then they can apply for housing allowance. These are just our contact details. Then you can contact us on these contact details. However, the presentation will also be uploaded on the WCET website, so you do not necessarily have to take a picture because the information will be there on the website. Then this brings me to the end of my presentation. I thank you very much. Over to you, Mr. P.
Thanks, Nimrod. We appreciate the presentation. We'll now, as agreed at the beginning, Tsepo will do the presentation on behalf of SA Home Loans, and after that we'll be able to take the questions in relation to both presentations, because there's an interlink between them. So, colleagues, can you mute yourself? Colleagues, can you mute yourself, please? Colleagues, can you please mute yourself? You're interjecting here. So we now hand over to Tsepo to do the presentation on behalf of SA Home Loans. And after that, we'll take the questions. Please note the question that you have so that at the end of the Tsepo's presentation, we hit the road with the questions. Over to you, Tsepo.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear a lot and clear.
Okay, fantastic stuff. All right, my name is Tsepo Kumalo from SA Home Loans. I'm hoping that my presentation will be short and brief. Straight to the point. So SA Home Loans is a financial institution that has partnered up with the Government Employee Housing Scheme. Most of what you're going to see on the slide, I believe that Nimrod has already spoken about. But one thing that I want to highlight is the purpose of the partnership. Essentially, we have one common goal, and the common goal for both GEHS and SA Home Loans is to make sure that all employees have the opportunity to get assistance with regards to property finance. So one of the goals of the Government Employee Housing Scheme is to increase home ownership within public servants. So with that being said, how can that be done? First thing is first, in order for you to buy or to build, what you need is finance. You need money. That's what you need, right? And when we talk about money, we're not talking about like small monies. We're not talking about 550 rand, 5 rand, not that type of money. We're talking about a substantial amount of money. Buying a building requires a substantial amount of money, and that's where we come in as SA Home Loans. So SA Home Loans is the only specialist home loan provider in the country. So we're not a bank. We don't offer any personal loans, credit cards, vehicle finance. We only focus on home loans. And by virtue of us focusing on home loans, it has put us on a pedestal whereby we can say we're experts in home finance. All right. We've been doing this thing over 25 years, so there's a lot of experience involved with regards to the whole property finance, and we've assisted over 300,000 people to be able to finance their homes. So the partnership, SA Home Loans and the partnership with the Government Employee Housing Scheme. So as Nimrod mentioned, SA Home Loans is an approved and recognized partner of the Government Employee Housing Scheme. And with regards to that, we as the partner, we have customized home finance in order for employees to be able to qualify. This particular partnership is unique in the sense that it creates the ability for more government employees to be able to access the financing that they require. When we say customized home finance to all qualified employees, what do we mean? So most of you, if not all of you, would know that majority of the things that we buy now, we buy on credit, right? And when we buy these things on credit, there's always this one step that all creditors or service providers do before they can even give you that credit. What they would do is request to do a credit check every time. Whether you are buying, you're trying to get a cell phone contract, personal loan, credit card, vehicle finance, home loan, to the extent whereby even now with pots, the ladies will probably know what I'm talking about. So with pots, when you guys are trying to buy pots from AMC or Lee Morgan, and it's a 16 pot set that costs 35,000 rand, you don't have 35,000 rand. So what you're going to do, you're going to buy it on credit. So ultimately, each and every institution or financial institution or credit provider is going to do what? A credit check. The biggest issue or the biggest hurdle that government employees face is with regards to their credit profiles. Majority of government employees have very low credit scores and unfavorable credit profiles, in which it has deemed it very difficult for them to try and access financing. Because, ladies and gentlemen, in order for you to be able to access home loan finance, your credit score has to be a certain amount. It must be very high. So with that being said, I simply ask this question: how many of you can confidently say that you've got a very good credit score, a clean credit profile, a very high credit score? I can tell you right now, the majority of people don't have a clean or a high credit score, right? It's either it's mid or low. There's a small percentage of individuals who have a high credit score. Those small percentage of people within government who have a high credit score, they are the ones who will then be able to get the assistance that they need in terms of qualifying for a home loan. So what have we done as a company? Very simple. We've made it possible for more government employees to access the financing by customizing the credit score, or what we looked at in terms of qualifying criteria. So for government employees, if you were to apply with your bank, for argument's sake, and you had a certain score, and your bank was unable to finance you 90%, with the same score, if you made an application with SA Home Loans, you would stand a chance of being approved 100%. So the scoring is no longer a big factor in this regard of you receiving 100% or qualifying for a home loan. So what they've done, they've basically said, before or with the commercial banks, a small minority of government employees would be able to get financing if they needed it. Majority of them would not be able to. So we've changed the conversation. Now we're basically saying majority of government employees through this partnership with SA Home Loans would then be able to get the assistance that they need. Now, the beautiful thing about it is this. I don't know how many of you have ever applied for a home loan before and have received an unfavorable response. Because I come from a banking background, I know whenever you apply with the banks, and then they decline you. Sometimes they don't even tell you the reason behind you being declined. They just send you a decline letter. You have to read it. And there is never an after application. I would say like an aftercare after the application has been done to say that this is the reason why you were declined. These are the things that you need to fix in order for you to be put in a space whereby you'll be able to get the assistance that you need. This is one of the key elements that we do at SA Home Loans. We are always in the position to be able to coach our clients, because at the end of the day, we do realize and understand one thing, right? For most people, being able to obtain a house or a home is major in their lives. So we try by all means to be part of that journey. What makes us different? There's a couple of things. One is the mere fact that we don't treat our clients as numbers. All right. Two, there are some products that have been designed uniquely for government employees, and our products again make home ownership more accessible and affordable to government employees. Interest rates are, I would say, very competitive, but again, with the interest rate, something that I like you guys to understand when it comes to interest rates, so that when you get to the point whereby you're trying to purchase property, these are the things that you need to understand. Our credit scores are the determining factor of how high or how low our interest rates are going to be. That's the first thing. Second thing, our credit scores are the determining factor of whether you're going to get a full or 100% loan or less, which means the first thing that you guys need to make sure that you work on whenever you are about to embark on this whole property journey is to make sure that your credit profiles are as healthy as humanly possible, right? What does that mean? It basically means this. If we find that a client doesn't have a very healthy credit score, but they still qualify for a home loan, right? Because their score is not high enough, right? They will still get the 100% home loan. However, their interest rate will be reflecting their credit score. To put it in simple terms, a high credit score will result in getting a low interest rate, because people with high credit scores within the financial sector, they are looked at or deemed as low risk clients. However, if you've got a low credit score, right, that will then equate to getting a high interest rate. Why? Because those individuals are deemed as what? As high risk clients. So it is literally in your own power to make sure that when it comes to the financing that you receive, it is going to be favorable on the basis that you have done work on your credit profiles. So I hope everyone gets that. That's very important when it comes to making sure that you receive the access that you need. Now, again, we understand that there's a lot of challenges that employees get when it comes to trying to get property finance. And with that being said, in our space, it makes it much more easy for us to be able to assist those individuals for whatever challenge they might be encountering. Again, we don't treat the people that we assist as, just a number. We make sure that we understand and know where you're coming from with regards to your particular situation. All of us have different situations, whether it might be financial or otherwise. However, understanding what's happening, it makes it easier for us to be able to make sure that certain things are put in place in order to be able to assist individuals to be able to become homeowners. Okay, so that was just a video showcasing what some of the government employees have been able to achieve with the assistance from SA Home Loans. So what the partnership offers employees, right? There is a couple of products that we offer that I'll be going through so that you guys can see what they are. So the first one is called Housing Access Loan. So this one was specifically designed for government employee housing scheme members. All right. How this one basically operates is that this product is what we call a non-mortgage loan. A non-mortgage basically means that it falls outside of a traditional home loan. What's the difference? So a traditional home loan, in most parts, it is something that requires for you to have a title deed involved. That is a traditional home loan. And in most instances, a title deed is something that you would find in the urban area, not necessarily in the rural area. So this housing access loan, when it was designed for those individuals who wanted to make use of a product that will allow them to be able to build in the rural area. So you will see that it's got a number of points on there. The first is the loan size. The maximum that you can get for this home loan is 350,000 Rand. That's the maximum. And then the term that you have to pay it off is maximum 7 years, minimum 2 years. And then you get a discount, about 3% discount when you pay for this particular product through a salary stop order deduction. Now, what can you use the funds from this product for? There's a couple of things. It's either you can use this amount of money to purchase or improve an existing property or build a new property from scratch. You can also use this particular product to buy land if you wanted to buy land. Now, when it comes to those who want to build, there's something that you guys need to understand. When it comes to building rates are very different. Building rates are different in the sense of where you are building. So building in the urban area costs more than when you are building in the rural area. By the way, in South Africa, we've got 9 provinces. Out of the 9 provinces, only 2 provinces do not have communal land or tribal authority per se. All right. There's no chiefs and kings in those particular provinces. These provinces is Gauteng and the Western Cape. The other 7 provinces are regarded as rural provinces. And because they're rural provinces, there are many employees who come from villages across the country. When you come from a village, you'll be given a PTO, which is a permission to occupy. They'll give you a piece of land for you to be able to build on that land. One thing that GEHS together with SA Home Loans was able to realize is that government employees were approaching the commercial bank in order to attain finances in order to build in the rural areas. And the reason why is because when they approach their banks, they go to their bank and they say to the banker, please borrow me money, I want to build. The first thing that the banker would normally ask is that, okay, you want to build? Does the land that you want to build on belong to you? And then the truth of the matter is it does not belong to you because you've got a PTO, which is a permission to occupy. You don't have a title deed, right? Because of that, unfortunately, they will never assist that individual with the financing that they need under the umbrella of a home loan. And it is one reason why they will never do that, because you don't have a title deed, right? Now, because they can't give you a home loan, there is another product that they will offer you. And that product is a personal loan. So majority of government employees have built using personal loans, or have tried rather to build using personal loans. This is a difficult endeavor in the sense that if there's one thing that me personally I've learned over the years is money is powerful. So as soon as you go to your bank, you borrow money, you borrow 350,000 Rand, and that 350 comes into your bank account. How many of you will use the entirety of that money to build? There's very few. Some of you, you'll be now thinking, the year that just passed was a very difficult year. At work, I've been stressed. I need to take a vacation. You take 50,000 Rand from the 350. And then a month later, you use it again for something totally different. So unfortunately, what has happened is that because money was accessible in your bank account, people started using it and forgetting that the reason why they took it was for them to build. All right. So with this particular product, these are the features that it has. First and foremost, if you are interested in this particular product, understand that we are going to require 2 quotations. The first quotation is for the building material. You go to any hardware that you want, you get the building material quotation from that hardware. The second quotation you're going to require is a quotation from the builder, which is the labor. Now, the builder needs to be registered with the NHBRC. They need to have a certificate. We don't want unregistered builders. And for people to understand why we don't want unregistered builders, it goes back to accountability. Those builders who are not registered, you can never hold them accountable. However, those who are registered, you can hold them accountable through the NHBRC. So these are the 2 quotations that we require. Now, we understand that money is powerful. By that being said, when the money is released from SA Home Loan side, we are going to pay directly as per the quotation. We're going to pay the hardware. For what? For the material. So the amount of money is going to go directly there. Then the builder will also receive their amount of money, but in increments based on the work that they do. What am I basically trying to say? I'm saying to you, the money will never hit your bank account. You will not smell that money or touch that money, because we understand that when that money comes into your bank account, some of you change and become a professional magicians because you start making that money disappear. So to make sure that we remove that temptation, we will be paying directly to the service providers. So the hardware will receive their amount of money in order for them to deliver the material. The builder will receive their amount of money in increments based on the work that has been done. Every time they do up to a certain percentage, they call us, we come, we inspect, we're happy, we pay them a certain amount of money. This is the entire process. Because remember in the beginning what I said, the goal for both us and the GEHS is to increase home ownership with public servants. So what is the point of you borrowing so much money and not making sure that it is used in its entirety for you to have a home? So that's a housing access loan. The second product is a mortgage bond. So a mortgage bond can be classified under 3 separate products. The first one is new purchase. New purchase is literally that. You are buying a property, all right? Whether it is a property in a new development, whether it is an existing property, but you are buying it, meaning there's a buyer and a seller. It is a direct transaction. That's a new purchase. Second product is called a switch. Switch is for all those individuals who currently have home loans with other institutions. So if you've got a home loan with another institution and you wanted to switch it to SA Home Loans, you are more than welcome to do that. Now, the question is, why would you want to switch to SA Home Loans? Very simple. As part of the partnership, there are certain benefits that government employees receive. And one of those benefits is a preferential interest rate. So when you are switching from FNB, for example, to SA Home Loans, right? And then when we assess your application, we say to you, we're going to give you an interest rate of 11.5%, which is currently prime at the moment, right? That's the interest rate you're going to receive, 11.5. But when you then pay for that home loan through salary stop order, we are going to give you a discount. So that discount will be minus 1% on that 11.5, of which now it will move from 11.5 to 10.5. So that is the benefit that you will be receiving because you are paying via salary stop order and you are a government employee. So that's switching. But switching also, there's a couple of reasons why people want to switch. So the first one, I've just mentioned it, if you want to see if you can get a better interest rate. The second one is for individuals who want to consolidate their debt. There are 3 products that we're able to consolidate when you switch your home loan. The first is a personal loan. Second, credit card. Third, vehicle finance. So when you're consolidating, what are you doing? You are basically saying, I've got my home loan and I've got these 3 other debts, right? I want to make sure that I only have one debt and pay one installment. By switching, you're utilizing the equity or the value in the property to pay up the car, the credit card, and the personal loan. So to give you a clear example, let's say you bought a property for 600,000 5 years ago, right? 5 years later, all you have, the balance remaining is 400,000, right? 400,000 is the balance. You bought it for 600,000. You've got a car, you've got a personal loan, you've got a credit card. These 3 things, right, have a total debt of 150. Right? So 150 is the total debt of these 3 things. And then you've got a home loan balance of 400,000. When you combine these 4 things, it's a total debt of 550 that you're still owing, right? Now, you're paying 5,000 for the house, 5,000 for the car, 5,000 for the credit card, and 5,000 for the personal loan. In total, your monthly expenses comes to 20,000 Rand. Okay. When you're consolidating, this is what you're basically saying. You're saying, SA Home Loans, I want to move my loan from FNB to you guys. I owe them 400,000. So you need to pay them their 400,000 and settle it. Fine. And then I need an additional 150 in order to pay off my car, my credit card, and my personal loan. Fantastic. We'll be able to do that. One thing that happens is that by doing this consolidation, it is going to free up cash flow. Remember, before for those 4 things, you were paying 20,000 Rand. Now, when you switch it, right, to SA Home Loans, now it's going to be over 20 years. The remaining term was 15 years because remember, you paid it off for 5 years. Over 20 years at 550. Let's say for argument's sake, the installment is now 7.5. Right? That's what it does. It reduces the installment because it's over a longer period and the interest rate is lower than a car, personal loan, and credit card. So now you're only paying 7.5 for the similar amount of debt. Before you were paying 20. It means now you've got a saving of 12,500 Rand. I know some of you are already asking the question, hey, Tsepo, now I must pay again over 20 years. I had 15 years remaining, But there's one thing that you missed out on. You missed out on the saving that you're doing now every month. Before, you were probably living from hand to mouth, did not even have 1,000 Rand to save. Now you've got 12,500. If you're smart, you'll take 2.5 from the 12.5, add it to your 7.5, and your installment monthly will be 10,000 Rand. Not 7.5, you're paying 10,000 Rand. For most of you, if you did not know, if you pay in more into your home loan, extra, right, you shorten the time it takes you to finish off that home loan. The last time I did a calculation, it's been a while now. If you paid in 100 Rand and you had a home loan of 500,000, you can literally save up to 16 months on your home loan. 100 Rand. Now, I want you guys to think about it for a minute. There are some of you whereby even your favorite beverage is not even 100 Rand. All right. So it is to your advantage when you're paying extra. So now you're paying 2.5 extra. It will not take you the 20 years to finish off the loan. It will not even take you the 15 years that were still remaining. It will take you less than that. So you've basically utilized the equity on your property to be able to do debt consolidation. The last product is called refinance. Refinance is for the individuals who have an existing property that's paid up. So an existing property that is paid up, basically you have a title deed, right? So there's something about property that we would like you guys to understand. When you have property or you are involved in property, understand that there's value in property. Property value will always depreciate. It never depreciates. Even through a pandemic, property value will always appreciate. So for those of you who are fortunate enough, let's say you bought a property 15 years ago, you bought it for 150,000 Rand. Its value today is way more than its value 15 years ago. So you've paid it up, nothing is owing, it's your house, right? There is equity in that particular property. You have the ability to borrow against it. I like making this example so that people can, it can be easier for them to understand. There is shops called, it's a shop, a store, yeah, called Cash Crusaders and Cash Converters. There are 3 things that you can do there. The first thing you can do, you can go and buy stuff. Second thing you can do there is to sell stuff. And then the third thing you can do there is borrow against, meaning you can pawn stuff. So if you were short of cash or strapped on cash and you had a phone, you can go to Cash Converters. You can basically give them your phone that they can hold as security, and then they can borrow you a certain amount of money. Let's say they borrow you 500 Rand, and the agreement is once you bring our 500 Rand plus interest, we will give you back your phone. That's basically what you've done. Why am I telling you this? You can do the exact same thing with a paid up property and you have a title deed. Who should utilize this particular product? Only those who have debt. So if you've got a paid up house and you still have a car, credit card, personal loans, utilize your paid up property to acquire finance in order to do it, to consolidate your debt and settle those other ones. Why? Because it's going to be cheaper in the long run in terms of your pocket, and the interest rate is going to be way smaller. There are obviously concerns because there's some of you who are thinking, why would I do that to my paid up property? If I don't pay, you guys are going to eat my property. So there are 2 things that we make sure that never happens. The first thing is this. Remember, when you're paying for that home loan, it will be paid via salary stop order. So it will be paid every month without fail, right? 2, you will need to take out a life policy or a product that we call a bond protection plan. So what does this do? Basically, it is a policy that covers the debt in the event that the person who has the home loan passes away or is permanently disabled. their debt on that home loan will be cleared and paid off. So even if anything happens to you, you can rest assured that that property is paid up and it will remain with your dependents. So these are the two things that we make sure that need to be in place so that you do not lose that property. So if you've got a paid up property, you've got the title deed, use it because you want to consolidate your debt. Two, a second reason why, which I find it very fascinating. There are people who have paid up properties and they want to do renovations on their properties. And yet they go and make an application for a personal loan to do alterations on that property. And yet that property has value. So it is to your advantage to utilize the value in your property to access money in order to do alterations. You want to remodel your kitchen, you do that. You want to put in a pool, you do that. Resting in mind that whatever alterations you do in the long run is going to increase the value of your property. So it is easier to access the funds through refinance because the property is yours, it's in your name, right? Rather than going through a personal loan and paying ridiculous interest rates. So these are the products that we offer: housing access loan and a mortgage bond, including refinance, new purchase, and switch, right? At the end of the day, we just want to make it possible for government employees to be able to own their own homes, not to wait for retirement so that they can cash in on a GPF, aka two-pot system. So they've brought all of these things in order to try and make it easier for you guys to be able to access the assistance that you need, be it from a financial perspective or otherwise. That is it for my presentation, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. Over to you, Mr. P.
Thank you, Tsepo. Thank you, Nimrod. Thanks, colleagues, for your attention. Please do remember to complete the attendance register, also the evaluation form that are on the chat box. Now it's time to ask those questions. If you have any question relating to the two presentations on the housing allowance benefit, on the SA home loan, it's time now to ask those questions for clarity, or if you need further information, you're welcome. I see there's a question about the credit score. They say, what credit score can be regarded as high score? I don't know if you can take that one.
I wouldn't know how to tell you.
Okay, I'll take that one. So it is very difficult to tell you what credit score can be regarded as a high score due to the fact that currently most people use Experian or what's it called? ClearScore. They use ClearScore, right, on their phones and so forth. And normally ClearScore ranges from 500 all the way to 760, I think. However, one thing that you guys need to take into account is financial institutions don't use Experian when it comes to looking at your credit scores. They use TransUnion, right? With that being said, whenever we do a credit check on your name, it will give us a certain credit score, right? On our systems, not the other systems, on our system, right? A high credit score is a credit score that is in the 690s on our system, 690, right? Not on ClearScore or on the bank's one or TransUnion, but we get all the information from TransUnion. Now, when you do one free credit check a year from TransUnion, you'll be represented by a different credit score. And that credit score is not what we use because we just take the information from TransUnion and then we mix it with our own algorithm, the same way that all the other financial institutions do. So when we do a credit score on our end, and you asked whoever who did the credit score and they told you that you've got a credit score of 690, understand that you having a 690 score is very, very, very high.
The other question is, if the home loan is in your spouse's name, not a government worker, can the switch still be done?
Okay, so the home loan is in your spouse's name. The first question I would have to ask is that how are you guys married, right? If you guys are married in community of property, it then means that that house is, by the laws of this country, in both your names. So when we are switching, it must be in both your names. It cannot be in one person's name because you are married in community of property. However, if you are married out of community of property and your spouse took out a home loan only in their name, right, they can still switch. They can still switch. That's not a problem, right? But understand one thing. The only way for you to be able to benefit from the relationship between SA Home Loans and the GEHS in getting that -1 and so forth, a government employee needs to be involved in that home loan, because we would need to now pay that home loan via salary stop order in order for you to get that -1, for example. But all the other benefits in terms of switching and consolidation, even if it's not in a government worker's name, they can still switch.
Just one point I want to make. Celeste has responded to the question in terms of where they can submit their applications. She's indicated via her district office, but it can also be sent via email, but the original copies must be sent through our call center. So we're trying to make it as easy as possible, and we have a turnaround time provided we have an accurate set of documents within 2 PERSAL runs. We will be able to finalize on the application, provided we have an accurate set of documents. And of course, like you said, those payments cannot be retrospective. Thanks very much. I have no further questions.
But Velmark Titus asked a question. Can we apply online for the housing allowance?
Not yet, but we're working on it.
Okay.
Thanks so much, Mr. Papela, Nimrod, and Seppo. Thanks, guys, once again. We do this annually, and you guys are always so very ready to assist the Western Cape Education Department. Special note of thanks to Ms. Celeste Pierce and Jacques, who are Mr. Jacques de Rieck, who are managing things in the background. Thanks very much, everybody.